Have you ever been deep in the woods? No cell service, no nearby roads, no lights except the flickering glow of a dying campfire, and then you realize the forest has gone completely silent. No crickets, no wind, no movement, just the overwhelming feeling that something is watching you. Camping is supposed to be peaceful, a way to escape the noise of the world, to trade concrete for trees, screens for stars, and stress for silence. But sometimes, when you remove yourself from civilization, you don't find peace, you find something else. Tonight, you're going to hear true camping horror stories, not legends, not campfire myths. These are real accounts from people who went into the wilderness expecting relaxation and came back with memories they still can't explain. Stories of footsteps with no owners, voices that knew names they shouldn't, and encounters that prove the woods are never as empty as they seem. So turn the lights down, put your headphones on, and remember, if something happens out there, help is never as close as you think. The first story comes from three friends who believed nothing bad could happen as long as they stayed together. Ethan, Mark, and Lucas had driven for hours into a remote state forest in northern Montana. No marked campground, no ranger station, just miles of trees in every direction. They wanted isolation, and they got it. The first day passed without incident. They set up camp near a small clearing, fished in a nearby stream, and joked around the fire as night settled in. They even laughed about how people online always exaggerate camping horror stories. That laughter didn't last long. Sometime around 1:30 in the morning, Ethan woke up suddenly. Not from a dream, not from a sound, just that instinctive jolt, like his body knew something his mind hadn't processed yet. Then he heard it. Footsteps. Slow, heavy, deliberate. They weren't rushing, they weren't stumbling, they were walking, circling the campsite. At first, Ethan assumed it was one of his friends stepping away to use the bathroom, but the steps didn't move away. They kept circling over and over. He whispered Mark's name. No response. The footsteps came closer, close enough that he could hear leaves crunching just inches from the tent wall. Then something pressed against the fabric. Not a hand, a shoulder. Whoever it was leaned its full weight against the tent, holding there for several seconds before slowly pulling away. Ethan couldn't breathe. He didn't scream. He didn't move. None of them did. The footsteps continued for nearly an hour, never entering the firelight, never speaking, just circling patiently. When the sun finally came up, they found footprints around the campsite. Bare footprints, large, uneven, and impossible. There were no tracks leading in and no tracks leading out. They packed up and left without saying much. To this day, none of them camp alone anymore. Because sometimes fear doesn't rush you. Sometimes it just watches and waits. The next story proves that not everything dangerous in the woods makes a sound you can recognize. Sarah had been camping most of her life. She knew animal noises. She knew the difference between paranoia and instinct, and she knew when something didn't belong. She was camping alone in a national park in Oregon, surrounded by dense forest and heavy fog. On her second night, she woke up around midnight to a sound that made her blood run cold. A woman's voice, soft, calm, close. Sarah. She sat straight up in her sleeping bag. No one knew her name. The voice came again, clearer this time. Sarah, can you help me? It sounded hurt, weak, almost desperate. Every instinct told her to unzip the tent and help, but something felt wrong. The voice wasn't coming from the trail or the campsite. It was coming from deeper in the woods, and it wasn't moving. The voice stayed in the same spot, repeating her name over and over for nearly 10 minutes. Then it stopped. Complete silence. In the morning, Sarah found footprints circling her tent. They weren't animal, and they didn't look human either. When she reported the incident, a park ranger quietly told her she wasn't the first to hear that voice. Other campers had reported the same thing, always calling their names, always coming from the trees. No injured hikers, no missing women, just a voice that knew exactly who you were. The most dangerous traps don't chase you, they wait for you to step toward them. The next story takes place in the Appalachian Mountains, where getting lost is easier than most people realize. In 2014, a couple named Jason and Emily went off-grid camping, following a faint trail that didn't appear on any official map. It led to a clearing that looked like an old campsite. Fire pit, logs arranged as seats, even abandoned gear. It looked used recently. That night, they heard movement in the woods. Not animals, people, whispering, laughing, footsteps weaving between trees, always just out of sight. Jason shined shined his flashlight into the darkness and froze. Faces, dozens of them, peeking from behind trees, pale, smiling, too wide, too still. The whispers stopped instantly. Then a voice spoke from the darkness. "You're in our spot." Jason and Emily ran. They didn't stop until sunrise. Later, park officials told them no campsite existed in that location, and several missing persons cases were tied to that exact area. Sometimes the woods don't hide monsters. Sometimes they hide communities. The final story is the most disturbing, not because of where it happened, but because of how exposed the camper was. No trees, no shadows, just open desert. Noah, a college student, went on a solo camping trip, believing the wide open landscape meant safety. Nothing to hide behind, nothing to sneak up on you. At 3:17 in the morning, he woke to scratching, not on the ground, on the ceiling of his tent. Something crawled across the top, pressing down. Then handprints appeared from the inside. Too many fingers, too long. They dragged slowly across the fabric, deliberately, as if whatever it was wanted him to see. He screamed. The scratching stopped instantly. In the morning, there were no footprints, no tracks, no explanation. But the handprints were still there, pressed permanently into the tent material. He threw the tent away, and he doesn't sleep with the lights off anymore, because when there's nowhere to hide, you realize how thin a tent really is. Tonight, you heard stories of footsteps that didn't belong to anyone, voices that knew names they shouldn't, campsites that weren't supposed to exist, and hands that reached through the last fragile barrier between safety and the unknown. Camping removes comfort, it removes noise, and sometimes it removes the illusion that we're ever truly alone. So the next time the forest goes quiet, ask yourself, is it peaceful or is it listening? If you want more stories that stay with you long after the screen goes dark, make sure to like the video and subscribe. Share your thoughts in the comments below. What part unsettled you the most? And if you're brave enough, click on the next video. I'll be waiting.